Today I'm going to replace the ignition on this 2000 Dodge Durango. And first off, I'm going to take off the steering column cover. And to do so, there are 3 screws underneath. I don't know what that fourth middle one is, but I'm going to find out. But I believe there's 3 screws to take off the cover. And this is a tilt steering model. Alright, I'm going to get started. Taking the cover off, and I'm going to use this T20 4-inch screwdriver to do it. So there you have that. Just coming right apart. That's my tilt steering knob, and this just unscrews. Look at one. Things are simple. So now I should be able to just pull this little bad boy off. Alright, now I got the cover off. We'll come back around here to the other side. So I am replacing the ignition switch. So I'm going to pull the ignition out and then take the switch out. So starting off with this ignition switch, it's important to have your steering wheel in this position because there is a tab right up in here. I will zoom in on that in a few. That you need to access, so you need to keep your path clear here. All right, now I'm going to take the ignition tumbler out of the ignition switch. Now I'm thinking you could probably take the whole switch out with the ignition tumbler in it and remove the tumbler with it out of the column, but that's up to you. So I'm going to do it in the car since I'm sitting in the car. And at this point, I'm going to take the tumbler out of the switch. So then to do that, you're going to pop the key in and then put it up at your ignition point. And all your stuff will come on. And then once you've done that, right behind the green and yellow wire, zoom in on that. You like my zoom in sound. All right, behind that yellow wire, there's a little plate. Well, behind that plate, there's a little tab right here. And what you need to do is push this little tab in. It's hard to see, but what you want to do is just push that little bad boy in, and then this whole thing should just pop out. Look at that. All right, now that I've taken out the tumbler, the ignition switch is still on. So I'm going to turn it off, just to be safe. You never know. Get in here with a screwdriver, turn it to the left a couple notches, and off goes your ignition. All right, I'm going to start disconnecting the connectors off of this ignition switch, starting with the green and yellow one over here to the left. I come in, the connector is pointing down. You can see a little plastic tab as well as a groove keeping it in. So I'm going to grab a regular screwdriver and stick that up underneath this tab right here. As you can see, it's lifting up. As you lift it up, you can just push the screwdriver in a little bit and actually work the connector out. So it seems to be working. You push it out here some more, and then that wire should just pop right on out. A little persuasion. There going to take off the back connector. It's right here. Similar tab. Get up in there with a screwdriver. Get that up underneath. Pull it up and try and just, there you go. Get that little bad boy out of there. And last but not least, connector on the bottom. Connector on the bottom has a tab on either side. There's one of the tabs right here. And you just get a screwdriver under up there. And you release. Let's do this gracefully, shall we? I'm up under here with a screwdriver. Push it back. And then on the other side of the switch, a similar tab. Screwdriver under there. Push it back. And then you go to the other side. And then push this back. And then the connector should pretty much come out the bottom. Okay, time to take out the switch. Here's the 3 screws earlier mentioned. And that would be a T20 non-tampering head you're going to need. And I got one over here. Where's that? There we go. Just like that. Yeah. So, and I have a long extensione. So I'm going to take these out and all right, now that all 3 screws are removed, this should just come right out. I mean, one would think. Let's give it a shot. That's pretty much it. And that's what it looks like with no ignition switch. 2000 Dodge Durango with tilt steering. And now here's the new switch with the ignition off. So in order to put the new switch, or the new tumbler in, shove a screwdriver up in this little dealio here and turn the ignition on again. 2 clicks. So then your keyways should match up. All right, and in order to put this back into the ignition switch, it must be turned on back into its position. Probably already is because it was pulled out. But knowing me like me, I turned it off. So 1 click, 2 click, it's gonna go past the 2nd click. When you get it to the 2nd click, you're going to have to line this part up with this part in your switch. So make sure that all this stuff lines up, especially this part. This is the part you're going to have to pay attention to when you put it back in. Otherwise, it should go back in as it was taken out. Now for more ignition switch fun, you have to align this doohickey, which if you look closely it's oblong, that and that top dealio has to line up into there. And the top has to line up into that. So it's a little difficult. Kind of have to maneuver it around a little bit and then it'll finally seat and click. But it is possible because I did it once already. So with the ignition in the off position, I'm going to put it in to its orifice where it once came from. And unfortunately, I cannot do this with one hand, but this is where it goes. Make sure it's in the off position, and just gotta mess around with it a little bit. And of course, make sure your screw holes are lined up. All right, getting the switch in was something. You gotta line up that bottom key. It's the most important way to get everything else to fall into place. And then it will be subtle, but it'll go click. And once it does, hold the ignition switch in place while you put the screws back in. And then we'll put the connectors back into place and we'll give it a shot. All right, everything's connected back up underneath our favorite yellow and green wire. Now let's give it a little start, shall we? Hopefully. Alrighty then. And with that, now to remove and install a ignition switch for a 2000 Dodge Durango.